Hello everyone, Oregon Moto John. I was up riding today. It was like 37 degrees and cold, and man, I was cold. My hands were cold, and I need some heated grips. My go-to are these Oxford heated grips. Man, they work out awesome, but for a dirt bike application, I don't want something with that's bigger than normal. I want normal size grips, if that makes sense. Those heated grips are a little bigger. I want my normal size grips. So these have lock-ons, so I need to get some regular grips, which I have some, but I have another set on order. So I need to do something that glues on. The only thing is I'm going to have to cut this. I don't know if this will cut off here or not, but so I can use this throttle tube. But I have some Tusk heated grips here. They're pretty inexpensive. And I'm going to try putting them on. They're just the elements that go under your grip so you can run regular grips. And then there's a toggle switch, which for this KTM, I think I'll be able to mount it on the other side right in this hole. So, as it has a hole mount toggle switch. Have some grip glue. We'll need that. I have some grips, but I'm not sure about these. I think I'm going to go with some pillow top grips. These are grippy, but I want something a little grippier, and if I'm going to install this heating element underneath there, it's not like you're going to like take these on and off. You're kind of committed. So I might put these on with air over the top and not glue them on just to see how they heat, but I really want to use the pillow top grips. So have some pillow top grips coming, but we can at least get the wiring done. So let's go ahead and get started. So this kit comes with pretty much everything you're going to need. You have your toggle switch. You have your kind of label, so you know high, off, and low. We're going to put this resistor in line. I believe that'll cut the current, and by adding a resistor, so that would be the low setting. I believe this would be in line with the switch. And then out to each grip, and then these adhesives that create the heat for your grip for your grips. And then it's just a matter of going to power. They give you a little wire power top and something that's going to go to ground. So it's just a matter of really getting that set up. So and then these to go to these different switches here. So let's get started. So for the first step, it's going to be getting these grips off. If they're glued on, you're going to cut them off, and then you're going to have to use a little sandpaper or file to get the old glue residue off your handlebars. In this case, these are ODI lock-ons. So I'm just literally going to loosen this up, pull it off, take this bar end out, and then put the filament on. Now over here, I'm wondering if this is going to cut off, if this grip's going to cut off this throttle tube. We'll have to see. So what I'm learning, if you have the lock-on grips, the ODI lock-on grips, the throttle tube that comes with those, oh man, it's impressive how these are glued on. I don't know if this is going to be worth my time. They're very firmly secured to that throttle tube, and I'm getting really close to just purchasing a new throttle tube. I'm real close, but I'm going to give this another 5-10 minutes and see if I can get this off and sand off the glue, but I have a feeling this isn't going to work out. I guess what I'm saying is I would suggest getting a new throttle tube without a grip on it for your specific bike before doing this task. Okay, I'm crying uncle. I spent a lot of time on this, and this is what I've got done. I still have half a grip to go. So unfortunately, I just ruined a good set of grips, and yeah. So before you do this, get yourself an OEM throttle tube that's bare without the grip. So not the lock-on kind. But while I'm waiting for a throttle tube to come, let's finish this side, and we can certainly wire the grips up. So no matter where you put these wires have to bend around something like this, or over here they're going to have to bend around a throttle a little bit. So I just kind of stuck my thumb in here and then bent these wires back a little bit, kind of up this way. And then we'll put electrical tape around here, and then I'm going to put a zip tie around there as well so that they don't get these attachment points don't get stressed out. And it's a matter of putting these wires where you want them. I'm going to put mine kind of like in this orientation, but I've seen people put them, you know, in this orientation as well. But I'm going to put mine kind of like that. So when I'm gripping these bars, I'm going to have my heating elements right where I want them. You could argue you want them back, you know, here on your fingertips, but I think I'm going to do something like that with them kind of more towards the bottom. I sprayed this throttle tube with rubbing alcohol and this rag, and then I'm just cleaning that off really good. If I had any grip glue on there, we could take some sandpaper to that, something pretty rough, and just rough it up and get that clean, and then hit it with some rubbing alcohol again. But we want this clean because we're going to peel the adhesive off of the back of this and apply that on there next. I got some 1-inch heat shrink. A common problem is with any heated grip is to have the right side get warmer than the left side, because the plastic acts like an insulator on the right. The metal takes the heat, absorbs it, so this will feel cooler because the metal is a good conductor and it acts like a heat sink. It takes away from the grip. So I'm going to try putting this on there to see if that balances that out. This is just some 1-inch heat shrink. It's got a thickness to it. It might make the grip a little harder to go on, so we'll see. Okay, it did work. I was worried that the heat shrink tubing, 1-inch tubing, wasn't going to shrink down tight enough, because you don't want your grip coming loose. But after using this heat gun and massaging it back and forth, be careful not to melt any of your controls. It does feel like it's rather tight. So I mean, I'm not able to turn that now, so I think that's okay. But again, this is something new for me, so this one, if in doubt, don't do this, because you don't want your grips to fall off. But I'm just still, I can feel it shifting a little bit down here, but not out at the end, so I might heat up around this end a little more. Okay, that is really tight now. I mean, I cannot feel that moving. There's no way that's coming off. So I'm going to clean this with some rubbing alcohol, and then I'm going to apply my grip on top of that, my heated element on top of that. Now I'm just going to put one wind of electrical tape around here to help hold that on, and then I'm going to put a zip tie additionally on the inside of that to help hold it on. We don't want to stress this part of the connection. So I have the heating element on. I put a little bit of electrical tape, one wind around the end so it doesn't catch on this end when I'm slipping that on, the grip on with air. And then I put one strip of electrical tape around here, and then one zip tie around here, being careful not to stress that. And now these wires are going to be in a good place, and I'll just come down and around. Now if I were to do this again, I probably would have rotated this down just a little bit more, so this would have been more at the bottom or at the front, but you know, do it the way you want to. Okay, you have a throttle side and a grip side. I'm going to put the throttle side and a grip side, the throttle side and a clutch side, so you can see the difference there. I'm going to put the smaller one over here, of course, and I'm going to test fit this up, so I'm going to use air, but if you were going to glue these on, you'd want to put some glue over here in the grip and then slide it on. So I have this, I marked on the switch before I mounted it. I'm going to mount it on the headlight here, high, low, and this resistor kind of plugs in the high part of this, and then it's going to come around, it loops around, and it's going to come back to the low side, and then the grips are going to go to this side. They're going to come together. The wire from each grip are going to come to this middle tab, and this Y connector with the resistor is going to go, I marked it, it's going to go to the accessory or positive, and then the other wires from the grips are going to come together and go to a negative. So the one thing I had a little trouble with is this resistor, because it's going to get hot. It's dissipating heat because it's creating resistance. So what I decided to do was to mount it to Rocky Mountain ATV suggested putting it at the bottom of the triple clamp, and there's this groove here. And on my bike, this is kind of thin, and it'll fit up pretty nicely up in here. So that's where I'm going to put it. So I'm going to put my bead of silicone in here, hold it up there, and then zip tie it on so it can dry. And I clean this with rubbing alcohol first. So we're going to glue that on there now. So there it is glued. I taped it up. I tried zip ties, but the zip ties kept pulling it to the side. I'm going to let that settle overnight. I taped it so it would just stay there. It doesn't need much because the silicone kind of sections it on there. And this will be behind my face mask, so no one's going to see this. But that's a good place where on the triple clamp that it can dissipate some heat even to the triple clamp. And it's not around any wires, touching any wires. So that's actually a good spot for it. So I'm going to let that dry, and we'll pick this up tomorrow. Okay, so I let this sit overnight. That's glued up in there good, and this will be covered by the number plate. So this install isn't bad at all once you get it figured out. You have your ceramic Y connector, and the two ends one goes to the high end part of the switch, and one goes to the low connector on the switch. And then the other end of that ceramic goes to the accessory or positive to keyed power. Okay, so I'm going to find keyed power. I found one on here, but it's really a big wire. I hate to use that, but I can if I have to. And then it's just a matter of taking your wires from each grip. See, I've ran these down the handlebars, and look at how these look. I mean, I really like it. I mean, look at how you can't even tell that there's heated grips under there. That's the standard grip. I just put it on temporarily with compressed air. Anyway, and then we're going to take, it doesn't matter which wire, per the instructions, you're going to take these two wires, and you're going to put them together, and we're going to go to a ground. Could be a ground on the bike, or a ground if you find a good ground up here. So we got those two, and then you take two of the other wires, and we're going to merge these together, put them in a connector, and go to the middle connector on here, which the kit comes with a connector for that, and plug that in there. And then once I get this, plugged to a keyed power source, because we don't want the grips to run down the battery, we should be all set. And I'm going to test that these work before I button everything up and wire it all together. But that's it. Not bad. I hope that makes sense. Okay, here I've got it laid out. This one's going to go to negative, one from each grip. You can see it going out to the left and right side. We have this one. This is going to go to the positive terminal there. I'm getting ready to put my little crimp connector that comes on it. I'm just going to stick that in, smash that, and then I'll slide, if you want, you don't need to, put this on over, and then I'll put this on and slide over the top, and that'll kind of help secure this connection as well to this. And that's going to connect right here. And then it's just a matter of taking this to ground, to accessory. And so I know I already showed this, but that actually fits up in there pretty nicely. It doesn't touch the plastic connector, but the connector, this little doodad bat here would kind of help catch that. So that's the best place. I looked at the other side, it wouldn't fit in there quite as nicely, but that's a good place for that ceramic resistor. So I combined those wires together, put them in there nice and secure, and then I just gave it a good squeeze. And now, this is nice and secure. It doesn't pull off. And I'm just going to, for an extra added measure, put this up and over there and heat shrink it on there. I colored in the yellow, heat shrink black, so it wouldn't show up so much if a person happened to get a glimpse of it. But I left this open and marked it positive, so that just a reminder to myself. And there it is, hooked up to that middle terminal of the switch with the high, low, and there's the top of the switch. I mark that until I mount it so I keep it all straight. This bike in particular is hard to find a good ground other than the battery, so it's really quick to pull the tank. I just pulled the tank, and I'm going to go to the negative terminal. While I'm in there, I'm going to put a battery tender quick disconnect on there. So I just put a little ring terminal end, connected it to a piece of black wire that I'll connect up to my grips, and then I'll have my ground. There's easier ways of doing this, but I'm not the best electrician, and I just didn't want to tap into the factory wiring harness and mess something up. So this is a good, safe way to do it. So that's what I did. So I poked around on these wires with the tester and found this one is switched accessory. This thing is big. So I just skinned the end of it. It's got kind of a copper terminal on the end that holds all the wires, so I didn't cut that off. I only took off the plastic glue part that, heat shrink tubing that was on there. So I'm going to take one of these connectors, because I don't really want to mess with the wiring harness much. I'm going to jam that on there. I'm going to put my other connector up in there. There's some solder there, and it's going to put the two together, and we're good to go. That's how I'm dealing with that. And to find that was switched, I just put this up to a shock bolt, on one of these stanchion tubes here, one of those. And then I just kept poking around on the different wires and hitting the start button. And while it's active, while it was powered up, not running the machine, I would see if the light in there would light up. And this one is keyed accessory, so I'm going with that. Okay, I got my Motion Pro throttle tube. I did have an aluminum one, but not under here. This is plastic, but I had one on hand, and I'm going with a Motion Pro because it's more of a composite plastic and it won't absorb the heat as much. I don't want to get into where I have a heat difference because I did put the heat shrink tubing over there. However, if you left that one metal and you got an aluminum tube, maybe they would be similar temperatures. So that might be a way of dealing with it without putting the heat shrink on the other side over there. But anyway, just a thought. I don't know. But if you had an aluminum or metal throttle tube and it's metal over there, I bet you they'd be pretty close. But anyway, so I went with the Motion Pro. It's this composite material, really tough. I just got one for a KTM since this is a KTM, but Motion Pro sells them in all the right for all bikes. Got it at Rocky Mountain ATV, but you can get it wherever you want. So I'm just going to crack this open with these two screws, take the throttle cam that's on the end of this grip, snap it on the end of this one, put that back in, and then repeat what I did on the other side, leaving enough room for the wires to move, for the throttle. And then here's what I got, that Motion Pro throttle tube. It's called the Titan throttle tube, which has the end in. Because I have the open style handguard, so maybe check into that if you get this one. Maybe you want a different brand or model. But this is what this is for a KTM. There's the part number. But that's for this bike, because I noticed it says KTM at one point on the box. Okay, well, I'm gonna put this throttle tube on, and then we'll finish the install by getting this on and then putting the grip over the top, and it's done. And it's just a matter of mounting the mask up. I got the wires all tidied up. They kind of fit nicely up into here, and my little ceramic thing is glued on nice and tight. I'm happy with that, how that turned out. And just mounting the switch. Okay, so we're just going to remove this screw and this will kind of crack open, and then we can change out this throttle tube. So now that you have these screws out, this just pulls back. Oh, that's one way to do it. You could actually keep your hand on there and it'll slow that down. But I've been trying this XC Gear little motorcycle tool holder. It goes over your seat. Has some magnetic parts down here and here. Magnetic holder here, and has the same thing on the other side. And it's handy. Yeah. Not a must-have, but, I mean, it's cool. It's got little plastic rubber goodies on the inside so you don't scrape your bike, but... Alright, so we're just going to finish taking this apart. Take this cam off and put it on the new throttle tube. It'll just kind of slide off the end. And then should be pretty simple. So with some light pressure, that just kind of pulls off the end. I don't even have to change my my cables out. Right, because I can just I don't have to remove the cam from my cable. I'll just pull that out and put the new one on. So this will just slip off the end. I'm going to take a moment and clean this up. It's just got some residue from writing. And get the new throttle tube on now. We'll just slide it on. I'm just using some PTFE dry lube on here. It kind of cleans it, and then I'll just squirt a little bit of that on there. It's interesting. Some people grease this, some people don't. You know, pros and cons to both. This throttle tube says not to grease it on the inside of the tube, so I guess I'm probably inclined not to. I've never had a sticky throttle, but I might use some of the dry lube in here and on the inside of this throttle tube. I cleaned and squirted some dry lubricant into these parts. Clean is the name of the game here. You don't want to attract dirt, so that's kind of what I'm going with. Now it's just a matter of slipping that in, indexing that in, and then putting this back together. Just make sure when you put this back together that if you push this all the way in, the handlebar, if it's not open, will drag on here a little bit. So I had to just pull this out like just a millimeter. So I pushed it all the way on. I can feel it binding a little bit. And then I pulled this out just a fraction so the end of this tube isn't dragging on the end of the handlebar. You want it to be nice and free when you use that throttle, no sticking. Now we can put our heating element on. And I'll do something. I want to keep the wires out of the way. I know some people put this on the back side, which isn't a wrong thing. I've just always tended to put them on this side, so I'll probably keep on with that. Of course, you want the heating element to where it's going to hit our hands. I could make an argument for putting it over here. I could also make an argument for putting it over here. So do what you feel is best. So I took these wires, and they're going to have to bend around this throttle tube. And I just kind of put my thumb on here and my other fingers here, and I just kind of bent those wires, tweaked them back a little bit that way so that they're already pre-bent to go around the throttle tube. I just cleaned this with contact cleaner, or actually I use rubbing alcohol before I put this on in case there's any residue. To prevent this basically from sticking after I remove the paper backing. And then I'm just going to put this on. Cleaning with rubbing alcohol is important. I noticed when I was first laying this tubing down, the element down, it wasn't sticking that well. And so I cleaned it, and now it sticks really good. And I decided to go with this for the wire position. It's kind of near the bottom, and then when I twist, I'm going to mount the wire up and along here. This won't be impeded by anything. We'll leave some slack there, and that should work fine. And this is what it looks like now. There's a little gap here, like there's supposed to be, but when I wrap my fingers around, I'm still catching it on my fingertips where I get cold, so I'm not worried about it. And then the palm will hit here where it'll feel good to have it up in your hand. Here's where I kind of did tweak those wires to where they'll bend around the throttle tube so it's not stressing these. And then I'm going to put a zipped electrical tape around here, a zip tie in here to make sure that that's being held securely. And then I like to put a little piece of electrical tape around the end so when I'm sliding my grip on, it doesn't catch one of these edges and pull it up. I don't know that it would, but I did it on the other side and it worked, so I'm going to do it on this side too. And honestly, don't sweat the position of this wire that much, because if you don't like where it is, all you got to do is loosen this up, pull out your throttle cam, and rotate this to where you want it, and try a different position, and then just adjust your wires accordingly. So don't. I was getting pretty over-analyzing this, and just anyway, just don't overthink it. Just put it where you think it should go, and you can always adjust it later. Here's my electrical tape. I'm going to put the zip tie on here. Okay, so here's what that looks like. Of course, we're going to, tidy this up to where there's enough slack to where it's out of the way, but not so much to where it looks unusual. And then now it's just a matter of getting our grip on. I'm gonna turn these grip heaters on. I mean, I put this other grip on I have this on. This is a dirt bike, basically, so I need to start it to do any electrical testing. So I'm going to go ahead and start it before I put this grip on. And I put this one on without glue, just slid it on with some air, and it is tight. So I don't know. I'm going to just, I like the idea of being able to change my grips later just with using some compressed air. So I'm going to go ahead and slip this on without glue. You're supposed to use glue. I have grip glue. I had some Renthal grip glue. But I'm just going to slip them on and just see what it feels like. See how grippy it is. I would say it is recommended to use grip glue. That's what the instructions say, and that's what you should do. So here's how that ended up. As you pull it, it gives it a little more slack. So I was able to draw this fairly tight. I might put one layer of electrical tape around there so it's one wire instead of two, but I'm not sure. And then I just ran it kind of where you would. Kind of up and along here and down here and back up into the behind the headlight, all tidied up. So I just ran my cables back where they go again. I didn't use this left side for the switch mount because these cables are in the way, but you could move those if you wanted to. I know Takamoto relocates those. So I just drilled my 1/2 inch hole here. The nut goes behind the switch. This goes on top with the little plate, and look at that. It looks good. Don't even see it. Very nice. And then when you're up here riding, you can toggle it, and it doesn't, to low, off, and high. And it doesn't stick out. It kind of sits flush with the mask. I mean, just barely sticks out, so you can contact it. So so far I am happy. And I like that location. It's nice that you just drill this out to a 1/2 inch hole, the other one that's existing there, so you don't have to make a new hole, but just take your time. So there you have it. So I just ran the bike, tested them. They work great. You got the high and low setting. They both work with the bike running, of course. The high, I feel, the low is really quite low, but the high comes through. So I'm going to put this grip on. I just put a little rubbing alcohol on here and on the grip to help slide it on since I'm test fitting it. And then I'm going to use compressed air underneath the edge over here to slip it on. So here we go. They're all on. They work. I like how it turned out. I would say definitely thumbs up. I'll update after my first ride. But I use the Tusk dual compound grips. Feel good. I might swap them out for some Pro tapers since that's what I usually run. But anyway, I like it. It works. It looks good. And yeah, nice upgrade so that you can have some heated grips and not have your hands going numb while you're out riding on the trails. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you're all doing well, and take care. Just as a quick comparison, here's the Oxford heated grips. No ceramic insulator to mount. Very nice switch, but it did take up some room, not much though. Larger diameter. I have small hands, and these are much larger. For a bike that I'm not riding hard, it's fine, but if I ride on trails where I'm really gripping, then sometimes I can get a little arm pump going. But for street use and gravel roads, these work great, and an occasional trail's fine. Now contrast those with the ones that go under the grips. Like these with the heating filaments. It's nice. I can use any grip I want. They're under there. Really don't see a lot other than maybe this wire, and then just a very small switch, which is relatively easy to mount on this KTM. If I hadn't been able to mount it there, maybe I would have tried on either side of this with some double back tape, or maybe fashion something on the handlebar, or I guess I could have even popped it in here with a hole, although I don't like drilling into stuff like that. But anyway, so this has a small size. That's the point. The Oxford grips have larger diameter. These are smaller, and you can run whatever grips you want. So there's some pros and cons for you there. But for like more of a dirt bike, light you know, kind of dual sport application, maybe the smaller grip ones make sense. I think I probably lean that way. But I love the Oxfords. Have them on the Honda, have them on my 350. If I go back, the 350 does see a lot of trails. I might have done the heating filament ones, but the Oxfords, I've had those on a 690. Had them on my 500. I've used these a ton, and I do like them. And these are kind of the sport model. They have different adventure and different models. These are the sport grips. So I always use those. But as you can see, not as sleek, very robust design, but, you know, big wire compared to the small wire, you know, over here. This is, you know, very, very fine.